Good morning and welcome along to this month's webinar. This month we are having a look at how secure is the cloud. Now this all came about actually as a topic at a function I was at the other day where one of the gentlemen at the function asked the presenter how secure is the cloud, and obviously a lot of people in the room all resounded with that. And I thought it'd be really beneficial for our clients and for other business people to have a bit of a deep dive into that. So that's what we're going to do today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is David Ruddock. I'm the Managing Director of Insane Technologies. Insane Technologies is a specialist IT consultancy firm, and we focus particular attention on the accounting, legal and medical healthcare sectors. Our focus is not only to help our clients reduce their IT expenses, but we also want to help them make more money through better use of technology systems. So a little bit of housekeeping for the webinar today. In your GoToMeeting application, you'll see that little orange arrow. If you click that out, you'll notice that you are currently on mute, and everyone is on mute throughout this presentation. But if you have any questions, feel free to expand out the question box and type them out. I'll do my best to answer your questions as we go through the presentation, and there's also going to be a little bit of time at the end for any additional questions that you might have. So what are we going to cover today? Well, first of all, what is cloud computing in simple terms? And why should you consider cloud computing for your business? I also want to show you how can cloud computing provide your business with better security and business continuity than you probably already have. And I'm going to give you a bit of a checklist to look at when you're comparing cloud-based services for your businesses. I also want to quickly touch on this Heartbleed thing and why this is such a significant wake-up call for the business community and for people in general from a security perspective. So when we look at IT, when we go back to the 1960s and we had these mainframe things that took up, an entire office building, very few people had them and they were extremely expensive. And throughout the years, we've seen the mini computer revolution, we've seen the PC revolution, and we're seeing this adoption of much smaller devices. They're more mobile ready. We've got access to wireless internet, mobile internet services, and pretty much everyone has a mobile device today, and we're seeing thousands upon millions of devices of these out there, and this is what's really driving the rapid adoption of cloud-based computing. So cloud computing, to give you an analogy, the internet and cloud computing is to computing what the electrical grid an electric company is to plugging in your coffee maker. Or to put it in other words, it's a more convenient and less expensive way to access the information or computing power and applications that you need for your business. Going back a little thing, in 1851, in a field beside an ironworks factory in upstate New York, Henry Burden built the largest and most powerful industrial water wheel in the world. At top speed, this 182-metre, 250-tonne behemoth could produce 500 horsepower that generated enough electricity to power the tools in this factory. Because back then, we didn't have electrical power plants. You had to generate your own electricity if you wanted to provide electrical equipment for your factory. Fast forward 50 years, and all of a sudden, what was once a world-class cutting-edge technology has been abandoned. It's rusting in a field and it's overgrown with grass. And this is because they then rolled out electrical power plants and provided electricity to everyone. And there was this commodity of scale that became a lot cheaper, a lot more readily accessible. And that's pretty much what we're seeing today with cloud and mobile-based computing. And like Burden's wheel, the days of the on-premises server for your business are numbered. The reason for this is we're now living in a world that's totally driven by applications. We're seeing a trend towards cloud and mobile computing. It's the largest and fastest shift in consumer-based behavior in the last 40 years, with the rate of adoption outpacing the PC revolution of the 80s and internet boom of the 90s. Of the 250 million people in the US over the age of 14, it's estimated that 355 million of them have a mobile device. And most software companies are moving towards a cloud-based software as a service model, which has a 6 times faster growth rate than traditional software licensing. So you'll start seeing things like Office 365, MyOb, QuickBooks, and other common business software applications that will be sold as a subscription-based model that is delivered through the internet, as opposed to you having to buy it and install it locally and maintain it locally. And if you haven't already taken on some of these services, that's where we're heading. A lot of people are sort of hesitant when it comes to cloud computing, but the reality is we're already using it in common things like the Google search engine, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Constant Contact, Gmail, Hotmail, even online banking, and your ATM and credit card machines are actually using some form of what we refer to as cloud computing. The question is for you, you're already using it, but are you being smart and strategic about it? So, to put it in non-techie sort of world, cloud computing is a collection of computing resources that as a byproduct of economy of scale are able to provide you with IT resources, tools and applications on demand and more cost effectively. So what are some of the benefits of moving to the cloud? Well, you'll benefit from lower hardware costs. You can become what we call device agnostic, which means that you can start using devices that Mac, PC, iPads, Surfaces. This means that you also end up with lower IT support costs because the IT support has been put into a commodity of scale at the data center or cloud provider's end. You are then able to access the applications you commonly need from your business from any device and from anywhere, where previously you had to invest in expensive terminal servers or Citrix servers to be able to have that remote access available for your business. And a lot of these sort of systems have built-in disaster recovery and business continuity systems which far exceed what we can implement cost effectively in most small to medium businesses. And you also benefit from this only pay for what you need sort of model, which is the utility pricing model like electricity. If you've got a business where you commonly scale up and down your staff numbers depending on busy seasons, or you have transitional staff, you can start paying on a month-by-month basis up or down depending on what your business requires at that point in time. It also makes it really easy to work and be productive when you're traveling, when you're working from home, in the field, or other out-of-office locations. And mobile devices also tend to be a lot cheaper than the traditional workstations. And to be quite honest, they're preferred by most people to work with because they're light and they're easy to get around. Some companies are opting for what we call a bring your own device policy, and this allows them to eliminate the cost of supplying equipment to their workers and then providing support for them. But there are a few gotchas that you need to be aware of with that. So the big focus, of course, of this presentation is how is the cloud more secure? And so what do cloud services have that you probably don't? And what we're talking about here are the sort of things that help improve security and business continuity that are quite often very expensive to implement. And whilst you may have some of these in your business, it's unlikely that you have all of them or have them implemented to the same level that you'll often get from some sort of cloud-based service provider or data center service. And things we're talking about are like redundant and backup power. They'll have battery backup devices, and then they'll have redundant backup battery devices and have backup generators to make sure that power outages don't cause a massive impact to the systems that depend on them. They'll also have more advanced security, things like 24/7 manned security on premises, CCTV cameras, biometric scanners. All the equipment will be stored in secure rooms away from public access. Very few of the businesses I go into on the Gold Coast will often have their server equipment stored in a dedicated room that is locked with its own air conditioner and nothing else in it because it's expensive to do. And all entry to these server areas will usually be authorized and logged. Talking about air conditioning, these sort of data centers will often have, well not often, they will have dedicated cooling systems to ensure the equipment is kept at a constant steady temperature. Now, you might question why this is necessary, but especially in the climate of places like the Gold Coast and southeast Queensland where we have really hot, humid days, the problem with server equipment is, and computer equipment for that matter, is that heat contracts and expands metal. And your storage devices in your servers and your computers, hard disks, the platters in them are made of metal. So if the temperature raises and falls all the time, what's actually happening is we're causing that metal to contract and expand, and that actually helps increase the chance of disk failure, which is why we do recommend that your server is stored in a room where there's a 24/7 air conditioner running at a controlled temperature to try and reduce the chance of that thing happening. And again, most businesses I've seen don't often do that because it's an additional cost that they would want to wear. They'll also, data centers will commonly have backup cooling systems as well. So if the main cooling system fails, they'll have various ways of trying to keep the data center and the equipment in it at optimal operating temperatures. They also have fireproof systems in there, things like fire retardant systems that are safe for electrical equipment. So if a small fire does break out, equipment isn't damaged. And they'll have really advanced backup systems, anything from your full server imaging to being able to back up to an off-site location. And quite often they'll also have replication of the core systems, software and data across multiple pieces of hardware and multiple sites. They'll also have advanced firewalls, and what we mean there is they're actually monitoring the internet activity constantly for malicious activity. They're looking for denial of service attacks, hacks and all the rest of it, and acting on that straight away to ensure the maximum amount of uptime for the services that they're providing. They quite often also have multiple sites of operation where they've got equipment that is available should one of the sites fail over. They can spin over to the other one. And they'll have advanced internet services where they're having multiple services with different carriers. So if there's a problem with one internet service provider, they can send the traffic through another, and it'll usually be with high-speed fiber-based connections, which are typically over 100 megabit in speed. And these are super expensive equipment that most small businesses just can't afford to implement. And they'll also have 24/7 monitoring, and what we mean there is they've got a team in a network operations center or NOC who are constantly monitoring the network, the environment, the equipment, all of these systems we've spoke about, looking for potential faults and being able to act on that really quickly. So what are some of the things you might want to check when you're looking at cloud-based service providers? Well, first and foremost, always make sure you review the terms and conditions. I know they're long, I know they can be a little arduous and a little boring at times, but I have seen clauses inside terms and conditions that allow the service provider to terminate an account with almost no notice and almost no reason, leaving you high and dry. One of the things I often find is if you go through the terms and conditions and you highlight the points that you're not happy with and go back to the provider, quite often they will adjust them for you. But the thing is, they're trying to get the terms through in their best interest without you noticing, because most people don't read them. And the things you want to look for as well is what's their backup policy? How do they back up their systems? What's their liability policy? So if they have an outage or a break-in or whatever, what does that mean for you? Will you get comped for that loss of service? What is your liability maximum that you could actually sue them for if that became a requirement of your business moving forward? Who has access to your data? So can anyone walk into that data center and get access to your data? Can any of their team access systems inside there? I have seen in reviewing various accounting packages that the accounting package provider in some of them can read through and access your data, and others obviously say we don't touch your data without your permission. You also want to know who owns your data. I've been looking at a lot of legal practice management software, and if you leave their cloud-based service, you have no way of actually taking a full copy or a full backup of your data from that provider, which means it makes it really difficult and expensive to move to someone else. And businesses change, software change. You want to have the flexibility that, depending on your needs, your business, their needs, their business, that you have the ability to move on as smoothly and efficiently and cost effectively as possible if you decide to change what you're doing. And you also want to find out, how's your data encrypted at rest? And what we mean here is, if their systems were compromised and hacked, whatever, are people able to get access to your data? And it's really important that your data is encrypted at rest. Now, I did mention I want to touch on this Heartbleed thing that's been through all the media in the last couple of weeks. and I want to focus on what it is and how it impacts you. So Heartbleed is the name that has been given to a vulnerability in OpenSSL. OpenSSL is one of the software applications responsible for creating a securely encrypted connection between you and a remote server. We refer to that as an SSL connection. Websites that have HTTPS at the start of them, or that little padlock in the address bar, that's an SSL connection. But not all web servers use the OpenSSL application. For example, Microsoft's web servers use Microsoft's implementation of SSL. But it's not just limited to websites. There's some applications that use SSL to encrypt the communication between you and their systems as well. And some of those applications will use OpenSSL. OpenSSL is one of the most commonly used because it's very easily available and very cost effective because it's actually free. Now, what Heartbleed does is it allows the hackers to remove the encryption. And what that means is the reason we use SSL on websites, specifically banking or any sort of area that you might enter confidential information, is because hackers can use what is called a man-in-the-middle attack. And then what that means is they essentially sit themselves between you and the remote server, and if the connection you have is not encrypted, they can hear or see all the data passing backwards and forwards between you and the server, and can therefore record it all. So we use SSL to encrypt that connection so that it can't be seen by a hacker using a man-in-the-middle attack. But what Heartbleed means is that if you are communicating with a system that is vulnerable to the Heartbleed attack, the hacker can actually see everything you type and do. So what should you do? Well, you need to go out and change all your online passwords immediately. It's a big wake-up call. A lot of people use very insecure passwords. They use it all over the same place. I know passwords are a pain in the neck to have to store because they want you to use a 16-digit uppercase, lowercase, numbers, all the rest of it. If you need help generating and storing secure passwords, you can use a system like LastPass, which is one of the ones we use. It's an online vault for your passwords where you can store every password you use, and it automatically inserts it for you, and it generates really secure passwords so that you don't have to sit there and think about them. You want to make sure you're using secure and complex passwords, and make sure you're not using the same password repeatedly. If you're using the same password on Facebook as you're using on your online banking or PayPal, you can expect that you're going to get hacked. Some of the sites that have admitted that they're vulnerable to the Heartbleed exploit. Now, this does not mean that they have reported that they were actually hacked by it. It just means the version of OpenSSL that they were using was one of the versions that was vulnerable to this attack. Includes Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, Google, Gmail, Yahoo, Yahoo Mail, YouTube, Amazon Web Services, Etsy, GoDaddy, Flickr, Minecraft, SoundCloud, Box, Dropbox, OkCupid, Wikipedia, WordPress, and Wunderlist. And this is not an exhaustive list. The good news is that most banks weren't exploitable, but you really want to check with your financial institution or any web services that you use that have a secure encryption and make sure that they weren't. A lot of service providers have already sent out emails either advising their clients that they were susceptible or that they weren't, and the actions they need to take. But as I mentioned, now's a really good time to go out and change all your passwords just to be safe. So how can we help you? Well, if you're interested in cloud services, we can actually consult with your business on your needs, review your current IT systems and see how you're doing things. Make sure that if there's certain cloud systems that maybe improve the way that your team works and raise efficiency and create more automation through systems in your business. We can also have a look at how suitable your business is for the cloud, because Some businesses may not be suitable for the cloud, and that could be because of internet availability or what they're doing. And then we can sit down with you and present you with options that are in plain English for you to understand, and then work with you on implementing a solution that's best for your business. If you do have any questions and following this presentation, or if you'd like to talk with me offline, either give our office a call on 55396 116, or shoot an email to admin, admin, @insane.net.au. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day. Enjoy your Easter long weekend. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.